Joining me now is the Assistant Trade and Manufacturing Minister, Tim Ayres, and we're just having quite an animated conversation in that ad break about this right to disconnect. We're also talking about the right to work from home. Now, I just had a long conversation with Tony Burke about this. During that conversation, I got a message from a staffer at Parliament House saying that's not true in relation to what Tony Burke was saying about having an allowance. Staff can't opt in and out of the allowance, not at a ministerial level. They just get it automatically and have to work overtime. That doesn't seem like ministerial staffers do have a right to disconnect at all.
Well, first thing, it's actually good to have a journalist who's actually interested in the issues around the modern world of work.
Flattery will get you
actually
nowhere.
Makes a
Answer
difference.
my question, please.
And these are the issues that are shaping modern workplaces.
Yeah.
Now, for parliamentary staffers, they are, or ministerial staffers in particular, which is the group that we're talking about, this has nothing to do with the right to disconnect. This is all about, the Commission review is all about working from home. In terms of the right to disconnect,
they don't have a
in terms
choice.
of the right to disconnect, many workers are paid an allowance for being available. Right? Many agreements. If you're a maintenance worker, if you're in any number of categories, you're paid an allowance for being available. Ministerial staff are paid that. You and I are paid a rate that recognises that the world of work intrudes on our home lives in a way that that is normal for us, and we're paid well for it.
Yes.
There are some workers in our economy who are just paid the minimum rate, but are on call.
If I could stick on ministerial staff, though, because we are a bit limited for time. This staffer is saying that's not true, and they don't have a choice whether to opt in or opt out. They just get that extra.
They're paid an allowance.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a good
but they
allowance.
don't have a choice.
It's a good allowance.
They don't have a choice.
It's an allowance. It's a good allowance.
So that's not actually a right to disconnect.
But the right to disconnect, as Tony was explaining to you, as is clear in the legislation, is all about people not being paid. Now, what it establishes,
still, I don't have a good example.
What it establishes is more of a balance in the workplace. Now, it's interesting.
More of a balance.
Our opponents.
The scales are like this now.
Well, we've had, as Tony pointed out to you before, a decade of wages going backwards.
Yep, sure. Wages are up 15 years.
We're restoring a bit of balance to the workplace.
Years, absolutely. But what about productivity? Because that is the big concern.
Can we deal with these two things in order? Flexibility?
Yes, sure.
Our opponents, all about flexibility when it's about never-ending casual jobs, labour hire. Suddenly when there's flexibility that's in the interests of ordinary working people in our suburbs and regions, the sky's going to fall in. The sky's not going to fall in.
That'd be great if government employed most people in this country, but they don't. Sure. Businesses do. They need to get, productivity out of their employees. We all need that for a thriving economy. What I'm concerned about is, and we spoke to Di Lee about this before, so, this is not some conspiracy on the right of politics. Di Lee has a electorate.
You're saying that Di Lee's not on the right of politics?
What I'm saying is that she represents manufacturers, she represents minimum wage earners. Where do you think she is?
Well, what I think is that these are all the big issues in the modern economy.
She won a safe Labor seat.
Yeah, these are the big issues in the modern economy.
Yeah.
The care and work agenda. Real flexibility that suits modern parents. Like, we actually want to create good jobs in a modern economy. That means good jobs in the private sector, good jobs in small and medium enterprises.
So the way I see it...
By making sure that workers and employers have got some rights.
Sure. But where is the ambition you have for Australian workers? At the moment, what I see is all these regulations that are not required and not well articulated as to why they're required. And it feels like a dumbing down of Australian workers. Where's the ambition? Where's the worker, the young person that you're saying to, if you work harder than your colleagues, you can get ahead? It's all this, collective mediocrity that bothers me. So where is the ambition? How do we compete with bigger economies? If you're working from home and more people want to work from home, I don't get how convenient it is. Why wouldn't a business just go, actually, I can get a cheaper person in Southeast Asia to do the same job? If they're not coming into the office, why wouldn't they do that?
Laura, that is the most sort of unremittingly negative view of the world of work that I can imagine. I talk to firms all of the time. I talk to workers all of the time. Right? These big issues about work and care, about women in the workplace, young men and women grappling with the responsibilities of family and work. Like, what we want to create in the economy is good jobs that a family can rely upon. We want to lift productivity by employers and workers working together. Now, we've had an experiment...
but you don't want to lift people too high.
Let me finish this point. We've had an experiment with the alternative view, right, where the last government, the Morrison-Turnbull-Abbott catastrophe, drove wages down, hostile to the union movement, hostile to balance in the workplace. And what happened? Productivity has fallen through the floor. Now, we are building a new model, and that is about workers and firms are working together in the workplace to do better. Now, the big drivers of productivity, look at my area in manufacturing. What is one of the biggest drivers of productivity in a modern economy? It's the amount of manufacturing jobs and investment that you have in the economy.
Indeed.
Lifting the component of Australian workplaces that are manufacturing workplaces is good for work, good for school leavers in outer suburban areas and regional economies. But it lifts productivity too.
Okay.
That's the focus of the government.
Okay,
that's our ambition.
Coupled with these IR changes and your changes to stage 3 tax cuts, you've just told people on 150 grand a year and more that they don't earn as big a tax cut as they were promised and is in legislation. That's what I'm talking about in ambition, right? A rich person, which you deem rich, earning around 200 grand a year, cannot afford to buy a house in this country. Have you seen headline after headline about that?
You know that low and middle income
earners... So when people actually do get ahead and they achieve, you say, oh no, we're still going to tax you at this rate. Do you agree with Paul Keating that it's confiscatory?
But the question...
No, that's the question.
The way that you frame the question, it seems like the only people who have ambition are people who are doing well. The truth is, low and middle income earners have ambition for themselves and their families.
Yes.
The government's tax package, which I'm glad we're talking about, because Peter Dutton wants to talk about anything but the government's tax package, is all about making sure that low and middle income earners get a fair shake, can deal with the cost of living a bit more squarely than they've been able to.
And if they break out of that, you're going to penalise them.
Yeah, people over $150,000 are still getting very good tax cuts. Like you and I will still get very substantial tax cuts.
Paying 45 cents and dollars.
But low and middle income earners right now in 2024 need a fair shake from the tax system. The government is all about making sure that those workers are able to earn more and keep more of what they earn. That is the right package. Well, that's a great ambition for the Australian economy. Let's work together to lift wages. Let's make sure that we've got good jobs that reflect modern standards and grapple with the big issues in modern workplaces like the work and care agenda, lift productivity together and create more jobs. So we have created 650,000 jobs over the course of this government. That is a record for a new government. We have got real wages going up for the first time that any of us can remember. And we're working with firms and unions and employees and employers right across the country to make workplaces better.
So you're working with unions or firms more?
Well, we're working right across the board. We're not afraid of working with either side of this argument. It's a Labor government.
No, you're
working
working a lot with
together.
unions, not a lot with business at the moment. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I've just come back from Western Australia where I spent 2 days working with Rio Tinto, the big rail companies, working on building more rail jobs in Australia, particularly in the freight sector. We are working with modern employers, with big companies and small, all of the time to create better jobs and more investment.
You're about to be interrupted by your boss, so we'll leave it there.
Well, I'll let him do that. That's all right.